Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Scott Luton and the one and only Kevin L. Jackson with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Hey, Kevin, how you doing today?
It's another buzz, a DT buzz. I love buzz. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You bet. It's great to have you back. I tell you, you're flying here, there, and everywhere on your
Oh
own
yeah, a lot of
VIP private
travel.
jet.
I
No, it's great.
wouldn't say that. I had to go. I had to
Um,
go to Alpena, Michigan,
okay.
last week at the on the UP at the very top. I was on the shores of Lake Huron.
Okay. So folks, first trivia question of the hour here in the buzz. What is Alpena, Washington known for? Chime in,
Michigan,
let us know.
Michigan.
What's that,
They're
Kevin?
gonna yell at me. Alpena, Michigan.
Alpena, Michigan. What did I say? Minnesota? I said Minnesota?
You
Probably
said
in.
Washington.
Oh, did I? Alpena, Michigan. What are they known for? Put it in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. But with that said, Kevin, welcome back. Always enjoy our monthly chats here. Folks, it's The Buzz, where every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Time, we discuss a variety of news and developments across global supply chain and business, and especially technology when Kevin joins us. But, folks, I got to tell you, we've got a big show here today. Not only are we going to tackle some big topics such as transformation and what it can deliver global supply chain, we're going to offer up frank takes on the state of globalization and a whole bunch more. Hang on to your socks on that one. Key takeaways from the World Procurement Congress and I believe the London Defense Conference, and an update on the space race from a logistics point of view. So if that was enough, that's a bunch of work for me and Kevin. But you know what? We brought in the easy button, one of the smartest easy buttons around. About 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time, Koray Kose, special guest, one of our longtime faves, is joining us. Koray, of course, the CEO and chief analyst of Kose Advisory. Kevin, I sure hope you ate your Wheaties and took your vitamins. We got a lot to get to today.
I hope Koray brought his crystal ball because he always brings tomorrow's news today.
It that's nice, Kevin. That's a nice take. And he does, folks. I think he seriously sees into the future more. Stay tuned. Don't test us. And folks, two quick things. Just like Sanjeev tuned in here. Sanjeev from LinkedIn. Hey, Sanjeev Garg from India. Great to have you, Sanjeev. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you like Trisha tuned in about Happy Buzz Day and is asking folks to let us know where you're watching from. That's right. We want to connect the world, make those connections, just like the lovely Alpena, Michigan, and Alan Jacques tuned in from Canada. Our dear friend Alan Jacques, who I saw at Gartner, great people. And he wants to know some more David Robinson stories, Kevin, from your days.
Oh, my old buddy. Yeah, I can make up a lot of things. All the time I beat him on the basketball court. Not. Uh,
You said you jammed on him. Is what, Kevin? You
I
jammed
jammed
on him.
on it. Yeah.
Of course, we're kidding. But Alan, great to see you. Alan, great to see you. T Squared holds down the fort on YouTube for us. The pride of Baltimore, Maryland says, "Bring it on, bring it on." We got it for you today, T Squared. Hey, all right, two quick things. Just like these wonderful people here, give us your take in the comments, whether you're tuned in to via LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch, no matter. Let us know what you think. And secondly, if you enjoy the show today, we'd love for you to share it with your friend and your network. Hey, if the Supply Chain Now team catches you sharing it, you may just get something from the goodie bag. So do that, and we'll see how you get rewarded. All right, Kevin, we got three things to get into before Koray Kose, the one and only, joins us. Are you ready to go?
All right. I think so. Let's go, bud.
You're always ready, man. You're always ready. All
I'll
right,
try.
let's start with that said. So, folks, if you're a regular here, you know With That Said is our almost weekly edition that usually publishes over the weekend. In this latest edition, which we dropped yesterday, we shared news from across industry as well as some of our live programming, resources, and much more. By the way, folks, if you'd like to join our live programming like today's Buzz, we always put our live programming for the upcoming week in each edition. So it's a very timely reminder. You can pick and choose. All right. So the news that we shared, Kevin, I'm going to hit a couple of these nuggets here. So starting with, in light of the tariff and trade landscape, which is a tough one, We
Yeah.
shared an interesting read on the automotive supply chain world, including, check this out, Kevin, this insight from Ford Motor Company CEO Jim Farley. He was being asked about, amidst all the push to reshore automotive supply chains, Farley
Yeah.
that 15 to 20% of commoditized vehicle parts are very challenging, if not downright impossible, to attempt to source in the U.S. And he also said, quote, "We can move everything to the U.S., but if every Ford is $50,000, we're not going to win as a company," end quote. Kevin, quick comment there. Would you buy a Ford Festiva for 50 grand? I don't know if they still make the Festivas or not.
Yeah, I don't know. You're dating yourself there. But, the whole idea of having a global supply chain is to be more efficient.
That's right.
We need to do this smart.
Do it smart. You heard that from Kevin. Do it smart. And by the way, folks, we're dropping the With That Said link right there. Thank you, Tris. Y'all check it out. All right, a couple of quick nuggets from With That Said. We touched on the rise in freight rates and lanes focused on China
Right.
to the U.S. Of course, that's as a result of some good news, actually. So the tentative deal that the two countries struck a week or so ago, they got 90 more days of planned negotiation. So it's just a whole new flavor of uncertainty.
Yes, it's not good. I mean, it's like more uncertainty, more uncertainty. CEOs don't like uncertainty. That's what I hear every day.
I hate, I would agree. I hate uncertainty. I can't stand, and I love taking some risks, but still, Alan's saving me. It's the Ford Fiesta I was thinking about. Thank you, Alan. Ford Fiesta, and I would not buy that for $50,000. I don't think Kevin would
No.
either. All right, where are we going next? Oh, the latest supply chain blog article, folks. And you're going to find all of these things and a whole bunch more. And with that said, in our latest blog article, we touch on a variety of issues that are currently or potentially impacting supply chains. Kevin, have you heard of the pending legislation called Guaranteeing Overtime for Truckers Act,
Oh,
aka Got Truckers Act, which seeks to force employers to offer overtime pay to their professional truck drivers? Right now, they're exempted from that. It's been winding its way through Congress for quite some time. You heard of that, Kevin?
I had not heard about that, but I mean, is this another, way to raise the cost of everything? I thought we were trying to fight against inflation. I don't
Oh,
know. We're going in the wrong direction here.
lots of mixed signals, But folks, check out the supply chain blog, which you'll find. And with that said, for a
Hmm.
quick update on things like that. And finally, Kevin, as I
Hmm.
mentioned, live programming, we got a great one come up this Friday. A very focused edition of The Bridge, which is our newest monthly series. Here we're talking workforce development in the aviation industry, and we
Yeah.
have an outstanding panel, Kevin, Suzanne, Brian, and Becky. Becky is a fellow pilot, Kevin. It's not
Okay.
for me, for you, one of your fellow pilots. She's also doing big things at Embry-Riddle, which I'm sure you've heard of, Kevin.
Yes, I have. We've had trouble with the workforce in FAA since Reagan, right? When he got rid of all of the air traffic controllers because they were on strike, and we've been struggling trying to get the workforce back in shape since then.
Tell you, I'm sure we'll touch on the controllers. We're also going to touch on especially the maintenance folks. That's my biggest love is
Yeah,
giving
you
some
were.
recognition.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
were a aircraft maintenance monkey, right?
I was a data analyst that made all
Oh,
that made all the maintenance folks angry. I was a data nerd, but hey, that was a lifetime ago. But I do love the maintenance professionals out there that keep our military and our public and private sector fleets moving forward. They never get any love. So we're going to touch on that and the important recruiting pipeline for that. Again, that's coming up
yeah.
this Friday, May 23rd at 12 noon Eastern time. So mark your calendars for that. Okay, Kevin, we got to keep moving here. We got two more things to hit, and we are falling behind, but it's my fault. All right, Kevin, I'm going to check this out from our friends at Easy Post. Great new resources from Lori, Kevin, and our folks, the team on the move over at Easy Post. So the modern warehouse faces a ton of challenges. Folks, you know this stuff. Labor shortages, skyrocketing e-commerce volumes rather, ever increasing cost pressures, and a whole bunch more.
Yeah.
And it demands smarter, more efficient fulfillment strategies. So to stay ahead, folks, you can't just simply automate. You got to get well past that. Look for new strategies to do it smartly, as Kevin mentioned earlier. So if you want to learn more about what can help your warehousing operation grow its competitive advantage and optimize that critical customer experience, check out this ebook from Easy Post. And we're going to drop the link right there in the chat. Finally, Kevin, we got this great blog article here right before Koray Kose in the flesh, the one and only, joins us. I want to get your thoughts here from our friends at Easy BI, probably, Business Intelligence. Easy BI. Comes this blog article that touches on the advantages of transformation for logistics and overall supply chain operations. Kevin, you are MDT, Mr. Digital Transformer. So I want you to give us your take on this read and the topic.
Well, first of all, it's really talking about how logistics and supply chain is really shifting because of technological advances. The tools, technologies are really simplifying operations and cutting down on expenses so that it can quickly adapt to market needs. But this also requires a lot of other aspects of the business, leadership techniques that drive digital innovation, creating scalable IT infrastructures, and being able to measure your performance in logistics. If you don't measure it, you don't make it, right? And these are really driving logistics and the supply chain industry with new ideas, new techniques, new strategies every day. So you got to stay online with supply chain now in order to know what to do, when to do it.
Hey, I love that, Kevin. Unsolicited. Spike the football on that. A lot of good stuff there. And folks, check out the read. We're going to be we just published that to the chat. You got the link right there to check out the blog article. You also got the link right here to check out that Easy Post ebook. We try to make it really easy. But Kevin, you mentioned lots of important words, but one I want to pull out: scalable.
Yes.
So folks, as businesses grow, y'all know supply chains, they often become more complex and more demanding. That requires technology solutions that not only optimize current operations, but they also scale seamlessly as the business and the complexity grows. So implementing, as Kevin mentioned there, implementing scalable technology, well, that enables companies to handle increased order volumes or multi-channel fulfillment or global problems, global logistics, you name it, without compromising efficiency, visibility, or customer experience, right? You can't just buy the tech that you need now. You got to keep your eye on what you may need tomorrow or next month or next year. So I want to pull that one word out, Kevin, because I think a lot of times in those selection processes, we got so much pain in to solve the here and now. And when we buy like that, it can create more pain later because some of these platforms aren't as scalable as others. Kevin, your final thought there.
Believe in the future. It's coming. So, it's very important to know that change is natural and be ready for change. Don't be afraid of it.
Don't be afraid of change, folks. Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
As we like to say right here, Kevin. Hey, Fuad, tuned in from London. Great to see you. I hope I said your first name correctly, Fuad. But regardless, looking forward to your take on these critical topics we're talking throughout today's edition of The Buzz. Okay. Kevin, I got one more quick thing I want to throw out there, folks. Folks, check out With That Said that we hit on earlier. And if you share your key takeaway here today from With That Said, you're going to be in the running for some caffeine. That's right. A Starbucks gift card. Who can't get enough caffeine here in 2025?
More caffeine, baby. More caffeine.
Fill it up. So folks, check it out. Let us know what you think. And we'd be grateful to get your feedback. Okay. We have an outstanding guest, Kevin. And I get Kevin and Koray in the same show. Man, I tell you what. So great guest coming out, longtime friend of the show, joining us here on The Buzz. Our guest is a futurist, a technology and AI evangelist, a renowned public speaker. I've seen him in action. He's an expert on geopolitical risk and value chain, and certainly supply chain. He holds positions as a board member, adjunct professor, lecturer, CPO, researcher, and multilingual thought leader. Kevin, get this, as a trusted advisor, he's supply chain practitioner and published author. He's got over 20 years of success working with the entire C-suite, CEOs, CSCOs, CPOs, CIOs, and all other C-level executives, investors, and stakeholders, folks. And he brings his highly successful crystal ball with him here today. Let's welcome in Koray Kose, founder, CEO, and chief analyst with Kose Advisory. Hey, Koray, how you doing? And we got you on mute, my friend. That happens. It happens. There we go. Koray, how you doing?
It's just 5 years post-COVID start, so
you hadn't had enough training.
I'm not this red, so I appreciate the kind intro. It sounds like loads, but I thank you very much for the very kind invitation today, and seeing Kevin, on the same show is an honor. So thanks for having me.
Oh no, where's your crystal ball? Okay, that's the only reason we're here.
It's coming, folks. It's coming. And we were talking pre-show about some of the topics we're gonna get to here today. And by my count, Koray, I had about 8 things on a longer list of items where you could say, "See, I told you so," but you're too modest for that, folks. We'll get to that in a second. But I want to start with this, Koray and Kevin. A little fun warm-up question, right? Let's celebrate a holiday here today. It is Plant Something Day here in the U.S. Plant Something Day. So I got a question for you both. Let's assume we all have incredible green thumbs, right? That the process and know-how is not a barrier. I would love to start with you, Koray, here. Assuming that, what's one thing that you would love to plant in your yard? Front yard, backyard, side yard, no matter. What would that be?
I would pick lavender because it has a variety of effects, such as traditionally used to treat anxiety, depression, pain relief, and I think what we're going through right now needs a lot of lavender. But it also is nice as an aromatherapy, so it relaxes you, and so you can see clear. So, and it treats insomnia, right? So all these sleepless nights that we're going through maybe in the next couple of quarters, I think lavender would be a good choice.
That is an excellent, and very practical choice, Koray. Plus, it's a beautiful blossoming flower as well, I believe. All those great properties. All right, Kevin, that's gonna be a tough one. I'm throwing seeds right now for lavender seeds in my backyard, Koray, based on all the properties there. Kevin, what would you plant?
Well, talking about lavender makes me think about when I used to live in Monterey, California, and the eucalyptus was everywhere. I mean, that was really good. But to be honest, there's one thing that I would love to be able to go outside and pick off the tree at any time, but I'd have to move, and that would be an orange tree. I'll put an orange tree. You got that aroma, you get your vitamin C, and it's so refreshing when you crack open an orange.
I'm with you. Big orange fan. And I love that, as you pointed out, that citrusy smell, right? Yeah. In fact, there's a great poker player. I can't remember his name, famous professional poker player. And he hated being into all the smoky casinos. So he was known for having an orange sitting at the table that he could, kind of put his fingernail in and smell from time to time, which took his mind from the smoky hall, poker rooms and tables. I got to look him up. Anyway, folks, I'll just add, Koray, your lavender, Kevin, your oranges. I've been trying to grow tomatoes my entire life, and I've been successful, and very kindly, generously successful, like exactly 1 year. And wouldn't you know, Koray and Kevin, the 1 year I was successful, me and Amanda had a beach trip. And when I came back, the birds and the deer and wiped out our crop. And I have never been able to grow homegrown, really good tomatoes. So we'll see. We'll take another crack at it. Okay, Koray and Kevin, we have got a lot to get to here today. I want to start with this, though, Koray, now that we've had a little fun. You've been on the show countless times. Really enjoyed our past, whether they're episodes of The Buzz or or some of our podcasts that we have collaborated on together. But for
Yeah.
our new audience members, right? The 3 people out there that don't know you yet, Koray Kose, share a little about yourself and what Kose Advisory does, please.
Yeah, it's basically a practitioner turned analyst, and then from the analyst big firms like ex-Gartner, I decided to take it on myself and be more direct, more profound in the topics that I choose, of course, and advise companies that are looking for technologies. And right now, a lot of things are evolving really fast. So getting the true insights from a unbiased voice in industry is extremely helpful for companies itself, but then also for technology firms to really understand the wants and needs of the companies that require, for instance, technologies in risk management, supply chain management, procurement, to help them to talk the same language, and at the end of the day, really drive successful growth in the market that is product-led and not just marketing-led in that context. So working on both sides, and finally, of course, the fuel, meaning like the VCs and PEs funding the technology industry, working with them to pick out the right great ideas where their money is worth spending or investing, actually, not spending, and drives the benefit for everyone. You know, a good technology utilized across many companies drives growth, but also, of course, then the investment return for private equity and venture capitalist firms. So working through that triangle.
Critical triangle. And you stay extremely busy working through that triangle, Koray. I tell you what, the firm is off to an incredibly blazing fast start. But I want to pull one thing out, Kevin. One word, my go-to today. Koray said unbiased. Kevin, we can't get enough unbiased, true expert perspectives in this crazy environment that's 2025, can we?
No, and especially the other aspect of what he's doing is the linkage and the cross with geopolitics. I mean, that's a very scary intersection to be at nowadays. I know Koray there's a lot of travel. Well, you were just in the UK, right?
That's right. The last 2 weeks I spent in London. There were the 2 big conferences. One is London Defense Conference, where literally policy makers, shapers are meeting, and then on the other side, diving deep into the world of procurement at World Procurement Congress, where you have more than $1 trillion spent on the management attending, and a lot of CPOs from grand names are there and taking time off their busy calendars right now to attend the Congress and congregate, actually, literally talking about what they can do now, but more so what's on deck and where they need to shift maybe even gears or walk away from.
So we're going to get to his key takeaways and observations on both of those events, especially the latter. So stay tuned, folks. Until we got a jam up show here today. And speaking of wonderful parts of the world, Nadeem tuned in from Saudi Arabia via LinkedIn. Nadeem, great to have you back. Always enjoy your perspective there in the cheap seats. I hope you're doing well. Okay, so Koray, before we get there, I want to talk about this great article. And folks, look at the graphic we paired it with. That is someone not sleeping at night because of everything that's on their mind. Check that out. And I did not draw that, I promise. Looks like it, maybe.
It looks like you're drawing without that chicken scratch, actually.
It's bad. It's bad. So this was grabbed from Koray's latest Forbes article, which we're dropping right here, folks. You can check it out right here. And you're going to want to. As I was sharing with Koray and Kevin ahead of time, I gave Chat GPT the article to summarize, and it really struggled to summarize it. I can tell you, he had sweat on its brow, and he was wiping it as he trying to deliver. So I said, you know what, I got to do it the old fashioned way. And it is a really good piece that's very tightly connected. So folks, you're going to check it out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull 4 thoughts from the article here, Koray, and then we're going to get you to share some thoughts that you hope readers take away, and then we're going to get Kevin's perspective as well on this Forbes article entitled "In Chaos We Must Create Trade, Tech, and Power in a New World Order." And Koray paints an intriguing picture. capture some of these assertions. Number one, China has not only caught up to the U.S. in areas such as AI and supply chain tech, but has surpassed the U.S. in those areas. Number two, when it comes to new tariffs and global trade policies, you mentioned a stark quote by Frederic Bastiat. I hope I said that right. French business leader, Frederic Bastiat, who said, quote, "When goods stop crossing borders, soldiers will," end quote. Yikes. That's a stark quote. Thirdly, supply chain leaders must not only brace for major disruption, but they must not panic, as well as they must act fast, including taking a critical step by leveraging innovative supply chain risk tech platforms. And then lastly, I love the Turkish saying that you closed the article with, Koray. And this is really tied to that last thought. Quote, "The brave die once, but cowards die every day," end quote. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Kevin, you were about to say something on that earlier quote from Bastiat, "When goods stop crossing borders, soldiers will." Your quick thought there before I go back to Koray.
Countries, just like individuals, do things that's in their best interest. And remember, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor because the United States stopped allowing them to get oil.
Yeah.
Goods stopped going across the border, and that caused the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Kevin, that's a great call out. And Koray, I think we talked about that last time you were on the buzz, because that is a small piece of forgotten history for a lot of folks out there. I'm not sure if that's even taught, those indirect root causes for the world's greatest conflict ever. But Koray, going back to this great read that really makes you think. Once you wrap reading this article, it's like sitting down with Koray. You walk away with 18 thoughts, including, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? But Koray, what do you want folks to leave with after reading that latest piece in Forbes?
What I try to put together is literally a piece that takes you out of your echo chamber. As supply chain professionals and procurement professionals, very often you talk to like-minded people in the very same vertical, and you don't see the signals that will impact your doings day to day. So you may talk maybe to peripherals like technology vendors or technology analysts, but that is not enough for you to really move your supply chain forward. And we always talk about resiliency in that context, and truly build up that capability when you disregard a major pillar, which is geopolitics, just saying like, oh, we're too far away. We don't really have any pull. We don't have any knowledge in that space, and we do not feel comfortable with that. Well, the same side, the same issue is on the other side. So in the policymakers and shapers, they don't really understand supply chains to the full context until it's too late. And then in politics, you put policies into play and a lot of funding into play, but then the execution is literally disconnected from the realities of the industry. So you see the disconnect on both sides. And on the one hand side, people talk about a seat at the table, and the other one talks about resolution of fragilities, and they're literally not talking to each other. So at the end of the day, it is hopefully the death sentence for the narrative in the chief procurement officer space that has been for decades always saying like, oh, we need to have a seat at the table, and they completely disregard, that they own the seat. And on the other side, it's, oh, we're going to throw policies and money at the problem, and then the industry, the market, quote unquote, will fix it. But if you have such a disconnect, it doesn't fix it. So a lot of efficiency is maybe focused on the procurement side, but not much effectiveness. And then on the other side, you have a lot of effectiveness, maybe with policy and money being thrown into it, but not a lot of efficiency. And this piece is trying to bring it together and to give everybody a boost of confidence, maybe a little bit through fear, doubt, and uncertainty. But at the end of the day, we all have it in us to make a changing world order work for us, because we will be confronted with it no matter what.
All right, Kevin, I'm going to give you your first reaction to what Koray just shared there.
So in that article, he stated a sentence that jumped out at me. It said, "We're in a reset phase. We're there's so many things that's happening. Government struggling with AI regulations, corporations facing supply chain fragmentation, but they also have to meet the ESG requirements. We're entering both proxy and direct conflicts when it comes to the geopolitics. You know, countries are falling and coming into existence, you know, seemingly every month. And these rival economies are just trying to figure out what to do, and the influence to the products that are driving the changes in our supply chain logistics are really reshaping global frameworks. You know, and with the bully U.S. leading the pack, it's really hard. We're trying to figure out who took my normal, right? So we're resetting, trying to find. I mean, we used to say this all the time: your new normal over the pandemic. That's what everyone said, right? Hey, we're not there yet.
I'm just gonna say, Kevin, we're gonna find our normal, just like we aren't gonna find our normal, just like we'll never find Jimmy Hoffa's body. That's the reality. And I want to be connected. Like Koray mentioned, I want to be connected to that reality, right?
Yeah.
Because that's in Koray, that fresh, frank dose of reality is what I think you have developed a wonderful reputation and track record for delivering. A lot of times we don't want to hear it. As Jerry Levy talks about, building supply chain, and great to see you, Jerry. Building supply chains requires something I don't often see: contingency planning. Everyone seeks to solve today's cost service challenge and move on. We are all guilty. Jerry, that's an interesting comment there. Interesting comment. But
hey,
yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
You know, I was just thinking after, you know, looking at that article, I was wondering if Koray even thinks, is there a such thing as a reset? Is there a such thing as normal? Or are we in constant search?
We are, in a way, because we are always in flux. I call out the Kondratiev cycles, right? So the fifth cycle was all about digital transformation, which started around the year 2000. And we were all ERP crazy and MRP crazy and P2P crazy, S2C crazy. And we're like, oh, you know, these solutions will help us for decades to be extremely effective and efficient. Well, turns out there was something called AI and space, and also biotech breakthroughs that now started to come into the sixth Kondratiev cycle, which is just about starting, but it requires a complete reset of our value chains and how we operate and how we generate value. And that is not in everybody's mind or comfort zone. So assertive leaders, like you called out the US, but we have assertive leaders in Russia, China, and Turkey. We have assertive leadership coming across in Argentina as well, just as a call out there, right? And a lot of that came through democratic elections. It's not like they just come into power through coup d'etat. So at the end of the day, these assertive leaders give you a little bit of that comfort, but they drive the reset even further and quicker than usually we are used to. So when we are thinking about that reset, it honestly is almost like a wipe format C, because the way you're going to create value in the future and how and where and what you're going to do is going to likely change very much from your P&L construct that you have lived on the last decade or so. So friendshoring we talk about, right? Or onshoring, nearshoring, that is all means of the fractures that are going through the global trade environment that we know since the Cold War ended and the Berlin Wall was actually, eliminated. So we're faced with a reality that we sometimes live too long in denial. So I hope this article helps a little bit, especially thinking about robotics and, AI in this context.
I think it does. So folks, again, you got homework. Check this out. Report back with the thoughts it provokes in your own mind, because as we all need, it offers an important dose of reality. And we've got to embrace reality to get through incredibly disruptive time. We sign up for disruption in supply chain, right? So let's separate that over here. But 2025 has offered some unique elements of the disruption formula. I want to add Claudia. Now, this might be, we were talking about predicting the future a second ago in the crystal ball that Koray's got. Claudia, great to see you. Really enjoyed you on the Buzz a week or two ago. Adding to Koray Kose's great quotes, she says, Peter Drucker said, quote, predicting the future can only get you into trouble. That task is to manage what is there and to work to create what could and should be, end quote. And that was from Managing in Turbulent Times from 1980. Koray, respond to that really quick, and then we're getting into the World Procurement Congress.
Well, I like to get in trouble, but that usually is not intended. I just enjoy then the debate. But quite honestly, when I look at that, as we need to be more confident in looking forward and not just in the rearview mirror, and think about the good times in the past, and those suppliers were really awesome in the past, but you need to look forward. And for me, the crystal ball wasn't really a crystal ball when I was talking about COVID in January 2020 to say this is going to disrupt the lives that we are actually enjoyed for a decade, and it really did disrupt it. When I wrote about what if Russia invades Ukraine early February, a month before they actually invaded Ukraine, was because I saw indicators, not because I'm sitting in a dark room and have Turkish coffee and read it, and which I like to read as well, which we talked about in the past shows. But when I look, for instance, into the indicators, and we see gold come up with 33% year over year, but then every other mineral like silver or lithium, for instance, dropped 40%. Those are all industrial goods, and they are cheaper. That usually means that the industrial environment is slowing down. The same thing is happening with crude oil at $60+ with 20% reduced pricing year over year. So those indicators are there that usually then create a forward-looking perspective of the world that we're facing. So in that context, I would actually say forecasting is different than seeing or being a futurist, because forecasting has a huge margin of error, has a very limited view on the variables that you're utilizing. And what I'm trying to do is bring a broader variety of those contexts together into a very specific outcome and an action. So in this note I was talking about, and that was published end of April, I said cash is still cheap. And as we talked in the pre-show, Moody's downgraded the US from AAA to AA1, which actually will have an impact on the interest rate and the weighted average cost of capital. So, read my stuff, don't take everything too serious, and do take action. And you will be probably landing more often than not on the right side of the boom, or the left side, whatever military context you grew up with. But that usually means like don't stand in the middle of it and just react to it. So make sure you're navigating out of it. And maybe as a last note, and one happy thing I saw is there's a couple of those leading technology providers. In fact, there was from our industry, from supply chain risk management, I was very happy to see a company, for instance, like Exeter, to be at the London Defense Conference. I was like, wow, I mean, there is slowly a movement starting of the companies that can connect and weave it together, because technology as a triangle that I discovered, and many discovered, people, process, technology as the main triangle, is actually not the only one. There is a connecting point in the article that talks about there's a second triangle. You need to take economics and geopolitics into your decision making. And even that's uncomfortable, and Kevin, you said it, right? Uncomfortableness is probably the main driver for your development. So why are we not developing ourselves is a little bit of that inertia I've been observing at World Procurement Congress a little bit, to be honest.
We got to come up with a T-shirt about break through the inertia or something like that. We'll get it ginned up and get
a great one. Yes,
get the merch factory going. All right, we got, for the sake of time, I wish we had a special double hour edition of the Buzz here, but we'll have Koray back. Kevin, let's do this. We've already touched on those couple events a couple of times now, the World Procurement Congress, and prior to that, the London Defense Congress conference, my apologies. And I think you mentioned one of those two events, it might have been the first one, World Procurement Congress. The attendees had $1 trillion in spend. Is that right, Koray?
Yep.
So if you would, and we're not going to do this justice in 5-10 minutes, but give us some of your key takeaways. Actually, I want to share, I think we got a great James Bond photograph of you. Look at the Koray Kose Hollywood picturing. And who's that gentleman there to your right?
That's actually Fuad who just said hello from London, So it's a
outstanding.
very small world in that context. Yes.
It is. This gentleman right here, Fuad, great
That's
to
right.
have you here. And you look just like Koray. You look like $1 million. So it's great to see you. It is a small world. How about that? So Koray, give us a couple key takeaways, key observations, and then I'm going to get Kevin to react.
So on the technology side, I think there is really still the early stages, baby steps going on. There was a day that called itself like the AI forum, but what I've seen, a lot of that was like literally companies exploring, and to some extent exploring too little, too late. But at least there is a little bit of that planting the right seed, back to the special day today. But I think there needs to be some more activity and some more assertiveness in utilizing that. That's one. However, there was a point of self-reflection where, when you talk to those CPOs one-on-one, where the most powerful sentence from one CPO was like, "We became the problem." And I think that is the first step to solving the problem, because avoiding it and saying like always the same playbook, let's get the seat at the table, yada, 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 yada. No, like if you realize that you are the problem, you then can take the diagnosis a step further and fix the root cause. And what is that? Like, for one thing, it is like, don't get entrapped always in the CFO playbook, which is like savings, cost containment, and then under the nice umbrella of some analysts calling it cost optimization, you get caught up in things that are really short term and not necessarily a strategy. And it's very tactical still. So that realization was actually, for me at least, refreshing. Because what I did with my session, I brought the former UK Secretary of Defense and Foreign Affairs, Tobias Albert, to my session, as well as a current sitting member of the Ukrainian Parliament, Sasha Ustinova. And what we talked about in the context with the technology provider, in that context, it was Exeger, just as one of the Magic Quadrant leaders as well, that we see right now, which was published by Gartner just a couple of weeks ago. Having that connection there between, the politics shapers, then a full room of CPOs, and a technology perspective to it, you could see how they started to connect the dots. And from becoming the problem, they are becoming the solution. And the solution for driving top line for companies that are going to be profitable no matter what happens in the market. And I think that is really where we're in the beginning of it. It's very fragile. Technology providers, careful. You can break this by providing too much of a marketing narrative, not a product strength, because that realization can break the trust early on. And on the other side, for CPOs, be more bold in the investment requirements you have against your CFO and the ROI timeline. Not everything has to pay off in 3 months. Not everything has to pay off in 6 months. Some of the things are just fundamental changes to your enterprise network and your supply chain design and your supply chain network design. So some things are going to be collateral damage, unfortunately. And I think that realization of never have anything go south has changed to there will be damage, but there will be the trade-off that is hopefully always positive if we are more assertive, but intelligently doing so, not just because of a major opinion going around. Or Kevin, you mentioned also the hype cycle, right?
Yes.
Waiting for the productivity plateau to set in before you decide for a technology, which is a safe bet of an analyst, is not going to cut it. So in that context, maybe smaller firms like ours that are more independent, or they are totally independent, unbiased in that, right? That is where you can suddenly get the specific technology advisor also following supply chain now and say, like, the people you bring on the show, the technology providers, right? You're going through a very selective bunch before they actually are, relating with your brand, is a good way to go through that jungle of providers and pick the right ones. So I saw that.
It's a scary jungle out there too, Koray. But Kevin, man, he just gave about an 8-minute master class on not just observations from the sessions and industry, but also he challenged not just procurement leaders, but business leaders to act differently. And when it comes to challenging the norms, when it comes to ROI and payback period, he mentioned, of course, the T word, trust, whether it's with your team members or with your suppliers or with your customers or with with your brand, right? And those folks that expect certain things from that brand. But anyway, Kevin, what'd you hear from Koray? What really got your attention there?
So the view of technology has changed. The most maybe revolutionary technology ever may be artificial intelligence, and it's not because it does what technology normally does. Because normally technology helps you do something that you already do better, faster, quicker, cheaper. So it just improves what you're doing.
Mm.
Artificial intelligence is not that kind of technology. AI is a technology for your mind. It enables you to create better ideas faster. It enables you to do new things quicker. So all of the measures and metrics that you use for traditional technologies don't apply. Doing something better, doing something faster. That's why if you're using AI, you got to think about, what are we going to be doing different?
Yeah.
What's the new idea that's going to change our future? And that Koray talked about smaller, advisory firms, because those are the firms that are giving you the new ideas, the new processes. The larger companies are sort of set in their old ways. They have technical debt. They have to tell you and work with you to use or do what you are already doing better. That's not the path to the future. So, Koray, thank you. I think you hit it right on the mark.
I tell you, he always does. If he was a baseball hitter, he'd be hitting 450. Koray would be, and Kevin, you wouldn't be far behind him. Hey, really quick, I want to right up here against this segment, but Claudia says people and culture should also be part of the new triangle of planning. Hey, you know what? It's a great comment, Claudia. And I would say maybe we should be talking rhombuses and parallelograms and pentagons. We need bigger shapes with more corners,
bigger shapes
and intersections and stuff. Okay, so Koray, let's do this. I'm sure there's so much more we couldn't get to here today, from the sessions and the sidebar conversations and what you're observing out in the industry. But the good news is, folks, Koray is one of the best. He loves talking shop and industry. And how can folks reach you to do just that, Koray?
One way is through LinkedIn. I'm somewhat active there. Not as good as supply chain now, so there's always a role model, right? So, and of course, Kevin, you are. And the other way is, like, of course, just through my webpage, reach out, and I'll be swiftly following up. Yep. And promise no AI bots. So I'll be
that's right.
I'll be the one you're talking to.
That's true. And folks, he will drop a lot of hot takes and finger on the pulse insights on LinkedIn in particular. So we dropped his profile there. And if you want to venture over and learn more about Kose Advisory, it's simple. Kose, Kose, advisory.com. And as Koray says, you don't talk to bots, you talk to him. And by the way, that's better, in case you were curious. Okay. Koray Kose. Kevin, really quick, before Koray goes, we gotta have him back again soon. It's been too long. But what was one of your favorite things that Koray touched on here before we bid him adieu?
Those triangles. I think that's really important to understand the interaction between your points of action, and how geopolitics is really an important aspect of that.
A geometry lesson in geopolitics and supply chain expertise here today. Koray Kose with Kose Advisory. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure. Thanks, Kevin.
See you again. Thank you.
Hey, Kevin, I told you. I told you to hang on to your socks when Koray joins. And he delivered again, didn't he?
Yes, absolutely. I really... it was a broad and deep conversation. I don't know how we did that in the last 45 minutes. That was
Oh my
so
gosh.
much.
It is. I got to go back and slow it down so I can catch up with both of y'all. But hey, we got a couple more things we're going to hit on today's
Okay.
jam-packed edition of The Buzz. We've already tackled Kevin's favorite takeaway from that session. Let us know yours. We'd love to get your take, your favorite part of what Koray shared here today. All right, so let's do this. We touched on technology. Let's talk about bots. Let's talk about bots. You remember our friend Max Garland with Supply Chain Dive. He joined us last month, and Kevin, you and I had a great time talking with and learning from Max. Remember Max?
Yes, I do. That was a fun event. That was a fun episode.
He's got his, just like Koray, he's got his finger on the pulse. So he's got his latest read out over at our Supply Chain Dive, and it focuses on some really cool things at the big A. So Amazon, folks, is rolling out a new series of robots for its warehouse operations as they attempt to significantly reduce or even eliminate some of the heavy manual work that humans are largely now performing at their sites. For example, a robot that doesn't look like these two robots here, but a robot they call Echelon will aim to eliminate manual handling of packages on conveyor belts. And another robot they call Tipper will be seeking to eliminate the manual unloading of packages from carts to conveyor belts. Many of these robots, and I think there's about 8 or 9 total different functional areas, different manual work and other work it's looking to reduce or eliminate. Well, many of the robots will be deployed first in Europe prior to broader deployment globally. Now, Kevin, this should not surprise, it doesn't surprise you or me, and it shouldn't surprise many of our smartest audience members and all of global supply chain out there. But what do you find most interesting about this announced initiative?
Well, actually, there was a statistic that was in that article. There are more than 750,000 robots currently deployed in the Amazon network. And they participate or play a role in completing over 75% of their customer orders. So think about that. And they're going up from that.
Right.
I mean, geez, that's huge.
It is huge, and I cannot wait to see the early returns. To be fair, of course, Amazon has had its fair share of complaints over the years from a ergonomic and safety issue, so that was probably another driver here. But given their volume and given what they do each and every day, the scale of this, scale of what they do, number one, is just mind blowing. But to see this, I cannot wait to hear early returns and how it, this largely will free up humans a variety of different ways. But who wants to spend all day, killing your back and the turning, moving packages? I mean, so much of this work can be automated. And for those that want to learn new things, like we talk about all the time, learn new things, raise your hand, volunteer, whatever.
Yep.
You can find new, more fulfilling work out there at Amazon and other places. So I imagine we're going to see many, as always, there's copycats with what Amazon does. And Kevin, I imagine we'll see more of these types of efforts at warehouses and other sites elsewhere, huh?
1 million robots on their network.
I'll tell you what. And, tying it back to Koray's article, and I could not find it here in perfect timing, but he had mentioned that robot to human worker ratio that folks out that some research firms out there regularly track. And do you know the country that is atop the list of that robot ratio, Kevin? It might surprise you.
The thing that I think about is China, actually.
Okay, so China's your guess. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. It is actually South Korea that has the highest ratio in terms of robots per human worker. So anyway, folks, stay tuned. We're going to watch this roll out. Go check out the article. You can find all the different robots that are going to be rolling out and where. But another great article by our friend Max Garland.
Yeah, before we drop this, I want to throw
Yes.
out a term we talked about before.
Yeah.
Cobots. So I wonder how many of these robots that are operating autonomously are actually cobots working with humans.
Yes. I'm curious
I'm going to do
about.
some research on that.
Okay, Kevin, you're on the job. That makes us all feel better. We can sleep better at night. All right, I'm going to share a couple things here, and then we're going to get one quick space logistics update. I want to start with this. Solomon is talking my love language here. Get this. Solomon says to improve on the supply chain output, we should endeavor as much as possible to do away with the silo mentality in the execution of the function. Solomon, as I mentioned, that's my love language. We got way too many silos in a time when technology and many other modern ways of managing supply chains should allow us to bust those silos down. That's a great comment, Solomon.
Yeah.
And Kevin, check out this. Tomcat is back. That's right. Tomcat.
Oh, yes.
And he's got a haiku here. Tomcat says, supply chain now live. Luton, Jackson, insights flow, news that matters now. Tomcat.
Oh, wow.
Love it, my friend. Love
the
it.
Smart cat. Tomcat the smart cat.
That's right. Okay, Kevin, last thing here. We just enjoyed a terrific conversation that was published, I don't know, a few weeks back with Dr. David Beck and Richard Donaldson and you and me. And we really, lots of if you love space and you love supply chain and where those things intersect, check out this podcast episode. I promise you'll like it. But I want to ask you, Kevin, can you touch on Rogue Space Systems and its current mission that they're on? And maybe in doing so, give us a very quick, brief primer on space logistics.
So first of all, I'm mad at you. I mean, space is never a short topic. I can do this for about 6 or 7 days, and you give me 4 minutes. But
I know, terrible, unfair.
With that said, space logistics is huge. You know, as we grew up, you talking about, we already talked about space exploration and all the exciting things that are happening. But we're now getting down to business in space. And that was the last article was about. You know, launch and transporting things in a low space orbit. That's logistics. And once you get up in orbit, you may need to have a space tug. This is something that Rogue Space, one of our launch partners, actually, I have a day job, as they say, and we work with Rogue Space, and they put up a payload for us. But they also do space tugs where you can, they call them orbital transfer vehicles, where you reposition satellites or supplies in space. You actually got to service these satellites and assemble and manufacture these satellites. And what about resupplying these satellites and taking the waste away? You know, the space station has waste. They put it in a satellite and they make it, they put it in, let it burn up in the atmosphere. The payload I was working on is communications and navigation, protecting the communications of commerce against quantum attack. And that's the payload that I've been working on.
Really?
And yes, and there's, how about managing space traffic? That's logistics, to be honest, and debris mitigation. Another thing that Rogue Space does is they go up and get rid of the old satellites that are in orbit. And all this needs, regulatory management and security. And so this drives commercial and strategic logistics about low Earth orbit. So we talked a lot about that when we were with Dr. Beck. And I hope we can get him back on because, to be honest, supply chain, logistics, we're doing it in low Earth orbit today. And if you're in supply chain and logistics, it may be your tomorrow.
Hey, love that, Kevin. That was a great primer, very timely primer, and you hit the mark. And by the way, big shout out to Richard Donaldson too, who's also a pilot like Kevin. And Richard joined us. He's also a fellow space nerd like me. And it was just a great episode. So we're going to work hard to get Dr. David Beck and Richard back together, along with Kevin. And I'm going to learn more about this space tug. The tugboat image popped in my brain, except maybe adds a few rockets on either side, Kevin. That is cool
right, exactly.
stuff. All right. I hate to wrap today's episode of The Buzz. I had a ton of fun, learned a ton from Kevin and Koray Kose. I want to thank, first off, our special guest, Koray Kose with Kose Advisory. Folks, connect with Koray, follow him, check out his site, check out those blog articles he drops on LinkedIn. I promise you.
And they are heavy.
they are heavy, man. Watch out. He speaks.
Don't get a hernia.
Don't get a hernia. You may have to get one of those robots from the Big A to help you out, maybe. But he keeps it real, and we need so much more of that in 2025. So big thanks to Koray. Big thanks to Kevin L. Jackson, the one and only. Be sure to connect with and follow Kevin across social. Kevin, great to have you here as always.
No, this was fun. Thank you very much.
It was. Big thanks to Amanda Tricia behind the scenes, who makes the buzz happen each and every week, along with all the other. If we do production here, Amanda and Tricia keep the factory running. I'm very thankful for that. Happy birthday to one Amanda Luton out there. We're not going to sing to you here.
Happy birthday to you.
I don't know. Kevin might need some dance.
You said not sing.
I don't want to ruin people's lunch. But hey, most importantly, big thanks to our global audience for being here with us, from Fuad to Claudia to Tomcat to you name it, all the folks that we couldn't get to here today. Thanks for being here. But you've got some homework, folks. You got some homework. Take one thing you heard here from Koray or from Kevin, put it into practice. Share it with your team. Act on it, right? It's all about deeds, not words. That's the name of the game. So with all that said, on behalf of the entire Supply Chain Now team, Scott Luton challenging you to do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And we'll see you next time, right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.